Hey guys, I just bought this gigantic turbo for the Mustang, and that means that this is the first episode in the Mustang turbo build series. So that right there is a billet S480. It's a T6 housing on it. It's pretty big. It's a little hard to tell in the pictures, but you know the downpipe is about 5 3/4 of an inch, and the turbo outlet there is 3.5 inches. So with the tight engine bay in these Fox bodies, you can better believe that this is going to be a challenge. All right, so here's the backstory. I got talking to one of my friends last week, and he wanted a bunch of the Go Fast parts off of the Camaro. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I would much rather use that money and turn the Mustang into a track car and essentially revert the Camaro back to kind of a naturally aspirated type of build. Now, the biggest issue is this. To get third-party insurance in Canada, you can't have a cage. Now, you can't take that car to the track without a cage. So the fundamental issue there is that you have this really fast car that you can't really do anything with. So I just care too much about the Camaro to put a cage in it. And classic cars are getting harder and harder to find. So I figured, you know what, let's keep that car a cruiser. Let's put a cage and a giant turbo in the Mustang, and let's rip some fast passes. So that's what I'm going to do. So the goal with this car is going to be to keep it essentially as it is, you know, without any major changes. Get the turbo on there, retain the AC, retain the power steering, power brakes, full interior, factory stereo, all those things I like about the car. It's going to be challenging. I'm going to have to build my own set of headers again, and obviously all the piping for the turbo. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting build, and I'm happy that you guys are here to join me. I'll try to document it. And let's get started here. Let me show you how I got this turbo mounted in the car. All right, you can see that I've got the fenders off of the car, bumper off, and I've got this thing absolutely hacked open to fit the turbo in this location. Now, if you take a look at the T6 flange I got, it's got these mounting points. And essentially my idea was that this flange is just going to mount down there like that. And that keeps essentially the crossover pipe tight up against this frame rail. I didn't want to cut the frame rail. I know some people do. I don't really like that look, so I tried doing it like this. And yeah, I think that's going to work. And on the merge pipe side of things, I've definitely gone a budget route for now. If you look at how much a merge collector is for these, it's like $200+ US. And I just feel like my $800 turbo isn't worth it. So what I did is I took a piece of stainless tube and I flattened the sides of it. And this is going to get more flattening, but I need to start tack welding it to get that kind of effect. And then essentially I've got another tube going up here. So this is actually offset, which works perfect for the car because I need this pipe really tight up against the frame rail there. And obviously inside, this isn't super nice, but I'm going to weld all those seams up on the inside and outside, then grind everything smooth. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be a fancy billet collector, but it's pretty much going to do the exact same thing. This flange was like $30, and this is a $5 piece of pipe, so save $200 on that one. So I'll just give you one more look at this bracket. Definitely not the prettiest bracket in the world, but it is very sturdy. I can move the whole car based off of this bracket, and you obviously need a support like this for a big turbo like that. And the nice thing about this now is that now that the turbo will mount up to here, I can start working on all that other piping. So let me get the turbo mounted up here quickly, and I'll show you how it looks. Alrighty, so that is the turbo mounted. And I've just got it loosely bolted up here to give you guys kind of an idea how this thing sits and what is doing what. So we'll start at the passenger side here and work our way that way. You can see the outlet for this downpipe is going to be absolutely massive, and I want to keep a full exhaust on the car. So this is actually, these bolts are actually loose, so this sits slightly different. But you can see there's actually lots of clearance on the power steering pump. Again, this guy is kind of more angled like that. And so this is going to have to kind of pie cut a little bit and then come straight down. And then it's going to run across the car to the other side. I'm going to convert it to 4-inch over here, and then it's going to shoot through the K-member. Lots of space over there. Now, on this side, a lot of people actually clock the turbo outlet up, and then they run a 90 and another 90, and they come down into the intercooler, which I think looks really bad. I do understand why they do it, though, because there's essentially no clearance here. There's hardly anything. But that's okay. I'll make it work. I'm going to do those quick release style intercooler clamps. So this one's a V-band. So there'll be one nut here, and then my intercooler is going to be mounted up front in the car, and that's just going to have one of those quick release clamps. So this pipe will be super easy to get out. So I don't think you could run it with this tight of clearance if you didn't have a setup like this, because you'd have such a hard time getting all the silicone couplers and everything on. Now, I do want to run an air filter. I'm not quite sure if it's possible. I mean, the fender's going to be over here somewhere, so it may be possible. You can see my oil feed line will go on the top. My drain line is going to come out the bottom, and it's just going to snake right down to the pan there. So that should work nicely. And then for my headers, the driver's side header is going to essentially shoot out down here by the alternator. And from the passenger side header, it's going to also shoot out, and it's going to come out right down there by the sway bar. And then I'll have the passenger side come over, and it's going to merge into a piece of 3-inch with the driver's side right here, V-band clamps down there, and then it's just going to connect up a 90 into this pipe here. So really, like, to me, that's kind of the hard part, was just figuring out the routing of everything. But it all looks totally reasonable. I don't see any big issues with this. It's, like I say, it's a bit tight on clearance, but everything should work. I'm going to say this downpipe is probably going to be one of the hardest parts, and the reason for that is this needs to come out under the fan, but that's going to want to interfere with my crossover. So I kind of want to get the crossover started, and then I'll start playing around with the downpipe, to see what I can do with it. I also have a bigger fan coming. This thing is just not keeping up with the car. The AC condenser gets pretty hot. On super hot days, the AC doesn't want to work as well as it should. And that's because there's not enough air pulling through the condenser, even with this little pusher fan. So I'm going to get a Ford Taurus fan on here. I checked on my buddies the other day, and it is unbelievable. I can't believe how much air this thing moves. So up front here, this fan, that's going to go right in the garbage. We have the intercooler right here, one inlet, outlet, and it's going to come around, come up through here, and over the hose, and that's good. And my favorite part, stock hood, and it's actually got really good clearance under there. As you can see, it just is cresting that lip there, but the stock hood has lots of clearance. And as far as those headers go, this is what I'll be using. So I purchased these 3/8 flanges, and I've got a whole bunch of these 1.5 and 2-inch Schedule 40 pipe fittings. So if you ever watch the video on my Camaro, I'll be doing the same style log manifold. Essentially, you weld these guys on here, and then you have a like a log coming out, And then, you know, you bend it to a position where your outlet should be. You weld a V-band on there. And yeah, it works surprisingly good. And these are so cheap. So all the fittings for both of my manifolds was like $85 Canadian, which is like $20 US. And the strength and how much heat they retain for the price, like you can't beat it. It's also super easy, you know, compared to going out and trying to bend tubes to make this happen. And the best part of it, it is easy to just buy headers, but the best part of it is in a situation like this where you have a totally weird engine and a weird AC setup and a different turbo than a lot of people use, you can make the header work exactly as you like. And, you know, you can still get to your spark plugs and everything. So sometimes off the shelf is nice, but in this case, if you're trying to save money and you want something that's a really custom fit, this is definitely the way to do it. So that's it for this video, guys, and we will see you next week. I've got the most crucial part done. This is the hardest part in my opinion. The turbo is mounted. I know where everything's going to go. So really, all we got to do now is just connect the dots on this thing and start blowing some head gaskets. As always, thanks for checking out the channel. If there's anything you want to see in specific in more detail, just let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one.